I noticed in your testimony, Mr. Wertheimer, that you said that there are 24 SETI scientists on the planet, and I can't think of a time in this committee where we've had a larger percentage of experts on our panel. So thank you both so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And Dr. Shostak, I really am intrigued by your section in your testimony on the public's interest and how the idea of life in space is an idea that everyone grasps and is especially a ideal hook for interesting young people in science. I think that's evidenced by the full committee room today. One of the statements that resonated with me is it would be a cramped mind indeed that didn't wonder who might be out there. I really appreciate that. You said also in your testimony, extraterrestrials are the unknown tribe over the hill, potential competitors or mates, but in any case, someone we would like to know more about. And I recollect a similar hearing in this committee, I believe it was last year, when one of my colleagues, and I'm fairly certain it was Representative Chris Smith, who's no longer on the committee, said, the interesting question is, what do we do when we find the life on another planet? So can you talk, both of you, about what's the plan? Do we announce it to the world? Do we do research more to determine if these are friendly or collaborative? Or what do we do when we make the discovery, assuming that it's going to happen? Dr. Shostak, would you like to begin?
Yes, that's a question of great interest to the public and of great importance as well. To begin with, there's no danger, right? I mean, you tune in your favorite DJ here in D.C. on the car radio, and there's no danger that that DJ is going to jump into the car next to you and give you a hard time, because they don't know that you picked them up. All right, so if we pick up a signal, they don't know that. All right, there is the question of, well, should we reply? I'll get to that in just a second. But what happens then? Suppose we do pick up this signal. It would be announced. The public has the idea that you all have a secret plan, that the government has a secret plan for what to do if we pick up a signal. As far as I can tell, there is no plan. Okay, and we have had false alarms, and I've waited for my congressman to call me up and say, hey, you guys are picking up a signal, what about that? And nobody in the government shows the slightest bit of interest, to be quite honest. What happens is that the media start calling up. The New York Times will call up, right? But the media, or sorry, the government is not so interested. So what would happen is that it would immediately be known that we had found this signal, and it would be known even before it had been corroborated. So there are going to be false alarms. Be prepared for that. But what you do is you get somebody at another observatory to also observe it. You would not believe it yourself if you were the only ones to find it. There are too many things that could go wrong. Okay.
Mr. Wertheimer, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. I think before you make a big announcement, you want to make sure it's real. You ask a telescope with different people, different software, different equipment to see if they can verify it. Then you can triangulate, make sure it's coming from something outside. You make sure it's not a graduate student playing a prank on you. And once you have some confidence that you found something, you may not know what it is. It could be some new astrophysical phenomenon. When pulsars were discovered, they thought maybe they'd found little green men. So I think at the point where you're pretty confident that you found something, you make all the information public, the coordinates in the sky, the frequency, anything you know about the signal. And I think there will be a lot of debate about whether this is some new natural phenomena or whether this is really evidence of another civilization. A lot of people will be working on that problem.
And could you also address, of the 24, you say the 24 SETI scientists on the planet, to what extent are other nations involved? How collaborative are we? We have a lot of discussions in this committee about international collaboration, especially in space. So can you talk about where we are as a nation compared with the other countries in the world on this issue?
SETI is quite fragile. As you said, there are 24 people doing it. There are about two-thirds of them in the U.S. The U.S. is leading this effort, and a lot of the original ideas have come out of the U.S. But we are working with other scientists in other countries, and because it's so fragile, we're trying to train new people and get new ideas and get other groups, because it's only at a very small number of institutions right now. The funding is fragile too. It's fluctuating around. The two biggest telescopes on the planet are currently funded by the National Science Foundation, the Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia, the Arecibo Telescope. Those are in funding jeopardy. It looks like one of those observatories is probably going to have to be shut down. The other is just hanging by a thread. The Chinese are building a bigger telescope. There's a new one going to be built in South Africa and Australia. So the U.S. may not continue to lead this work, but it is now.
I would find that disappointing. if that happened. And I'm out of time. I yield back the balance of my time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.